Hello, good evening, and for some reason, there we go. We've got the wrong trail thing there. Hello, good evening, and welcome. You're through to Jared Walters and Richard Oliver. You're through to Jared. My God, this has gone terribly. Richard, how are you?
I'm good. Well,
Ah,
not really. I'm not. But there we are.
no, I'm actually really starting to worry about my mental health a bit, to be honest with you. What's the matter, about? What's up? Welcome everyone to the Now Debate. By the way, I'm Jared Walters. We are going to have a discussion tonight. And Rich, you can't. You go on. You go, my friend. You go. You go.
Wait there, 2 seconds. I'm trying to find the live stream and it won't let me on my tablet.
Oh God, he's got his tablet up and running. How are you guys?
Yeah.
We're all going to be having a chat today about something extremely controversial. You're probably all going to hate us after this and think that we're being insensitive for discussing this. And if YouTube takes this stream down, we are. And I've just had a visit from my dog. If YouTube takes this stream down, then we are apologising. But apparently, YouTube is saying we're not allowed to speak about this, so that's why we're speaking about it. Rich, how are you?
Yeah. I'm okay, I suppose. I'm okay. Well, it's just all this malarkey that's going on in the world at the moment, and I mean, it's getting a bit bizarre, shall we say.
Well, do you want to get us a little bit up to date on what you've been looking into, my friend?
Well, I've just gone a quarter of the way. Well, I say quarter, just under halfway through that David Icke interview. And I've been looking for the last couple of weeks into quite a lot that's been going on in the world. I've been looking a lot into 5G. I've been looking into the different reports coming from around the country of this pandemic. I've been looking at Australia, who have been talking about this being brought from a lab in Wuhan. I've also looking at America, who's saying that they caught this gentleman from Harvard University who was being paid to take these viruses to China. So, I mean, it's hard. It's quite hard. It's kind of hard to bring yourself, as what I know from the world I know about, right, and the research I've done over the last many, many years into some of the stuff that's gone on. It's hard to look at this without seeing some sort of other means behind it. And that's the feedback I'm getting from everyone. There's more to this than meets the eye.
Yeah, absolutely. The amount of people that come to me and say, I've got people working in hospitals that are coming to me and saying, there's definitely more to this than meets the eye. I've got, people who would never have ridiculed me because we went to see Mr. David Icke last 2 years ago. And, a couple of friends and stuff, ridiculed me for going, for paying my money to go and see what the man had to say. And even those people are saying that, this is coming from something. And I think it's because of the unprecedented nature, right? None of us have really lived through something like this before. In our generation, right? Maybe like those of you guys who may have been brought up in the 60s, especially in like the valleys, may remember things like the smallpox outbreak in South Wales that happened. I think it was around the early 1960s, which on a local level would have been something similar, where people would have had to kind of go through like a lockdown. But never on, you have literally somewhere around about 4 billion people right now around this planet who are, for lack of a better term, on a lockdown, or what they're calling under like a house arrest, essentially. And at the end of the day, I don't disagree. I disagree with some of the stuff that David Icke is saying. But what I shared the post that he's put up because he's put out an appeal now for people to share the interview. It was the most watched live stream on YouTube that day. Basically, the amount of people times that got watched, right? It was somewhere around the region of around about 5 million. his first interview he did 2 weeks ago. We don't so much have the metrics on the second one. I'm not entirely sure what they were off the top of my head now, because I've been trying to put all this information together. But according to the BBC, of all sources, that has very much sort of taken up what looks like a personal crusade against this 5G, the stuff that's come out about 5G. Put a scathing article out against London Real out yesterday. And London Real's not like, it's not like your sort of conspiracy themed YouTube channel. It's not. The guy who does London Real, basically he interviews several different people from different walks of life. If you want a bit of a good education of different world issues, from economics to different aspects of psychology, to different things around the world and how it's affected, London Real's a bloody good channel to look at. And the fact that the opinions of a 63-year-old man from the Isle of Wight are being ridiculed by the likes of the British Broadcasting Corporation, so much so that YouTube are basically turned round now and saying that they are going to take down, and don't get me wrong, there has been some bloody awful ones, people making videos about links between coronavirus and 5G, which are completely and utterly baseless, and have just doing no one any good whatsoever. But
well, they're not baseless in the fact that it is the first place in China for this to roll out.
Well,
it's not baseless if it's a quite a dramatic coincidence on a grand scale of things.
I'm not disputing that, dude. I'm on about the actual evidence that a lot of these videos were putting out. That one was supposed to be the boss of Vodafone, for example.
Yeah.
That's the ones I'm thinking of. The ones that are well researched. Now, if you look in the description of this, guys, I have shared a lot of links. And I have tried to share them from both sides of this argument. We are doing with this, well, I have done putting this together, because rightly or wrongly, it was me that put this together. I've tried to give people the both sides of the argument here. And I can understand sort of where a lot of this information is sort of coming from, but I have put links in the description that sort of try and look at both sides of this argument. And there's one very good one by a psychologist which I have shared. I meant to tell you about it, Rich. I just haven't had the chance because of
I wasn't. I gotta be honest. I wasn't quite fussed on it, but
I found it quite interesting. Personally,
I don't like the psychology language, because I've been learning about it myself.
Right, okay.
I didn't like the fact he was saying there's no correlation between emotions and electromagnetic brainwaves.
Well, they're going to say that anyway, aren't they? Because that's more of a
that's
kind of
what I mean. So it's a biased opinion before you start. For me, just from my point of view.
I could understand it from his point of view. I wasn't taking it from my point of view when looking at it.
Yeah.
I was taking it from his. And at the end of the day, you are in a situation where we are in a state of mass panic. And it's tearing families apart, but it's been tearing, it's been causing arguments of people close to me. And I'm sure you were having the same.
I've had a few people I've had a couple of sort of heated words with over the past couple of weeks in regards to some of the situations that's going on.
Now, my view on the 5G thing, right, is I can't. Well, what would you like to express first, or do you want me to carry on what I'm saying, or is there something you wanted to express first, my friend?
Well, I was just thinking, right, and I would kind of put it like this, right? 4G isn't very healthy, right? The amount of radiation is pumping out. I've heard people saying it's the same water. It's not much more like ampage than a light bulb, and this and that. It is way beyond that spectrum of microwave radiation. Okay, yeah. And they're saying it's a low frequency and it uses less power than 4G. Yeah, because it doesn't have to travel the same distance.
Yeah.
But what you're essentially going to have, and you have got Elon Musk launching satellites into space at an incredible rate, beyond imagination. I mean, the amount of satellites that's going to be in space, and we've heard the theories about space debris and how it will stop us eventually. You'll have to navigate this stuff, right? Without there being real scientific tests, real ones, absolutely, over a period of time, tests of this stuff. Now, if I got, say, some of these people, and I got a microwave oven, and I took the microwave out of it, and we set it to defrost, which is about the same 150 watts that this is going to be pumping out, and I told them they got to stay in this room 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, while they're on, and there's one in each corner. I can imagine they'd decline. Just personally, I would imagine they'd decline, right? So, but they, without any regards, and it does seem that they're putting these masks up whilst we're in quarantine.
Yeah,
I've been
absolutely.
seeing it on Facebook, and people have been filming it, and they do appear to be putting them up in schools and hospitals. And it does appear that what David Icke is saying on this RT-PCR test does look for just a certain amount of genetic material. I'm not sure if that is the test they're using, but I'm going from something that I was told by a doctor, and that was that if I was taken into hospital with asthma and I was testing positive for COVID-19, my asthma would not be treated, and that is what he'd been advised. Now, without that treatment, it is, I would say, a 95% certainty that if I was having an asthma attack, I would die.
Yeah, absolutely.
I would die.
Yeah.
That's what asthma treatment stops you from doing, is dying. Was taken into hospital.
Yeah.
So the fact that they've been advised not to treat asthma is just, it give me the heebie-jeebies. I didn't like it, and I heard this from a doctor's mouth. It kind of felt like they wanted me to kind of just hope and see that I might die or I might not.
Yeah.
And I'm going. That's that happened to me personally. That was my personal only
and your doctor has told you that you have had COVID-19 symptoms
4 times now. 4 times we've been told without testing we have categorically COVID-19. We have all the symptoms of this virus that is supposed to be killing the world. Now, there's one thing I do like is statistics and maths. And the fact that China is back on its feet with the population it has, when this virus was so utterly contagious and devastating, is, to my mind, mind-boggling.
Well, there's a couple of things I want to bring up on here before you continue, okay? The first thing is NTD News, which is as far as I am aware, and I will verify this, it's the news broadcasting company in America, the biggest one for like a Chinese and Asian audience, English news service out in America. Now they are basically saying that the reason why China is not having as many cases is simply they're not allowing those cases into hospital, and people are literally dying at home. They are also reporting, and it's on a YouTube. We get in the UK here. It's called Eye on China, but I believe it's actually a mainstream sort of broadcast in the States, specifically around the New York area. If anyone can dispute that or correct me on that, please do in the comment section below. NTD News, I believe it is. And I've actually got a report from them linked in the description below, because it's the scientists, doctors and scientists speaking out about 5G. And like you said, my friend, right, just because they're speaking out against it doesn't necessarily make it a conspiracy theory. And the fact of the matter is, it's not that people who are having concerns and raising these concerns about the 5G network, it's not to do with the fact that they're saying it's a conspiracy. It's the fact that there are these doctors and these scientists, etc., around the world, and these states that are banning it, like Brussels, and the debates that are happening in Canada, and I think Slovenia that recently sort of come out and said that they have halted or put a moratorium on the rollout of 5G. When you got these people that are saying that, there is something we need to take a look at. Now, I would go a bit broader, and I would say 10 years ago, we barely any of us had a smartphone. I had my first smartphone roughly around about July of 2010, right? Mm-hmm. So we're looking probably about, 10 to 12 years. And we've gone from that to wearing the damn things. And it's completely and utterly changed the way that we are interacting in the world. And for a large perspective of it, it's very positive. Especially now, the fact that everyone's bloody isolated and in lockdown and all the rest of it. It's very, very helpful. I always give the story of my father, who, after his heart transplant, Facebook was a godsend for him. It was something that really helped him. But it is obviously, there's a lot of stuff that's come out negative about Facebook, like the Cambridge Analytica stuff that, you can even you can watch documentaries about that on Netflix, for God's sake. This isn't something that's coming out of the mind of some tinfoil hat wearing crackpot. This stuff is real. And so they are basically saying that China's not taking any new admissions, and that they have been locking down other cities secretly. And this is what's supposed to be a mainstream news outlet in America, right? Whether if it's wrong, please correct me, right? Secondly, you have Sky News, who reported today that Wuhan is basically open for business, and Chinese people are celebrating in the streets, which a lot of epidemiologists have said, we are being told now. There's an article in the Express today saying that the scientists who advised the government to go into lockdown reckon they should keep this lockdown going for at least a year. And if you look at sort of previous pandemics, things like the Spanish flu, you had like a second surge, or a second wave, or even a third wave that was even more deadly within like a sort of 2-year period. The Spanish flu was around, and that killed millions. What we're seeing now in the death tolls is absolutely harrowing, but nowhere near on those levels. And I hope, to God, that we don't get to those levels. But then you're seeing Sky News in Australia, which is the same organisation run by the same people. It's all part of the sort of the Murdoch group. Again, correct me if I'm wrong, but they are reporting now that it didn't come from bats, and the bats weren't even sold at this wet market. It actually came from the lab, which is 300 meters away from the wet market, and that report is in the description of this video as well. To the point now where you've got, so I can understand where people are worryingly starting now to ask questions. You have Michael Gove the other day doing the president, the Prime Minister's briefing. Okay, you have him saying about whether it was a slip of the tongue or not, but reducing the rate of reinfection. Okay, reading off a teleprompter, right? But also you have the NHS guy, and this link is in the description as well of this video. You have the NHS guy basically turning around and saying these 5G masts now are part of our infrastructure for our emergency services to respond to COVID-19 cases, right? And what I find is absolutely ludicrous is apparently the network's not supposed to be rolled out yet. It's supposedly in the test phase. So when I've been watching this David Icke interview, okay, I came around this article from the Daily Mirror, and what he's saying here is 100% right, where it says elderly patients are being pressed to sign non-resuscitation forms in case they get coronavirus. I says elderly people across the UK are being pressured into signing do not resuscitate forms. Aged care organisations have warned. Age UK said one 85-year-old woman was recently called by her GP and asked to decide whether she should come down with the coronavirus symptoms. She wanted to be in hospital and sign a DNR form. You know, Jesus Christ.
I just think this is,
and that's coming out of the mainstream. That's coming out of the mainstream news. That's not coming out of a conspiracy theorist. You know, that's in the fucking newspapers. Excuse the language. So I can understand why people are, you know, starting to question this, and we need to. I don't agree with David Icke saying there is no virus, and I actually think he hurts his cause there, because I hear the fact that he's saying about this test amplifying. Well, the fact of the matter is that, to me, that would make sense if we were testing. We're not testing people.
no, but they're testing the people in hospital.
Yeah, I can understand that, dude. But what about the people? I've seen more ambulances in my local community of Cum Park, which is a small village in South Wales, right? I've seen more ambulances up here in the last 2 weeks, dude, than I have seen in my 30 years of living here.
Well, I personally haven't, right? But
Right.
if that test anything, it does seem to me, as I'm seeing it, right? If you look at the statistics now, if we look at the statistics for this year of people who have passed with the flu, pneumonia, or any other diseases, right? And this is what David is saying, to look into other countries and see these tests. And if they are testing with this test system, this RT-PCR test, and it just tests for any material that they find in the lungs that shouldn't, or isn't part of the natural form of the lungs, shall we say. And they're saying, like, well, that positiveness is COVID-19. Now, it does seem to me, because this doctor said to me about my asthma, we will not treat your asthma.
Yeah.
It just, I'm just trying to put these two sort of things together, right? Now, I don't know how true that is, and that needs more investigating to find out if that is the test, because the maker of it, Kia Mullins, who invented this test in 1984, said, do not use this on contagious viruses. It will not work, because you can't pinpoint which specific virus it is. And you can, if you look at this pyramid he's talking about, that's what the doctor told me. They were advised. I don't know who advised them, because he was the doctor. But somebody advised him to not treat anyone who has asthma with normal asthma treatment. If they're suspected, not tested, suspected of having COVID-19. So it does paint a dreary picture for me personally, right? It does seem a little. I did find it very suspicious before I saw this David Icke interview. I found it suspicious, as you know, Jazz. I rung you, I rung my boy because he has asthma, and and I was like, oh my god, this is quite scary.
Yeah,
that is a scary thought. So there is something underlying, and I can't quite put my finger on it. The way the media have been reporting this.
Oh yeah, I'm not saying that. I am not saying that. I do believe there's a virus. Where I've also shared in the description a documentary did by Sky News called Inside the Red Zone, and I recommend everyone watch it. Right, I'm not taking a side either or, because I simply just don't know. Right, I simply just don't know. Right. I am adhering to the advice. I'm not saying to anyone to not adhere to this advice. What I am saying is to be informed, and what I am also saying is to ask questions, What I am concerned about here is not so much about the virus and the people affected by it, because I'm sorry, but the fake what they showed on that Sky News documentary, they would need Oscars. They would need Oscars to see.
But they're not. That's the thing. They're not faking it. They are testing people. They're coming out positive because of the test they're using, and they're treating them the same way. So they wouldn't be. They're treating them for COVID-19. And they have is obviously going into, I can imagine thousands and thousands and thousands of people, because asthma is a massive thing. The weather's changed. Just putting this out there, and I can imagine they have a lot of people bombarding the hospital with breathing difficulties. And if they're using this test, then it would come up as the test they've been advised to use, that it would say that if it tests positive, it's COVID-19.
And the other thing is I've known a few people in my family that, have gone into hospital with underlying health conditions, and because they've been in hospital, they have passed away due to a virus that's been contracted there.
Mm-hmm.
It's a few times that I've had with family members.
That's what I mean, Jazz. It's just a little bit. You can't. For me, after looking at it, it's starting to become a little bit fishy, and I'm starting to think because the problem is with it. If that was the case, that's dark, right? That is a dark.
Yeah,
dark.
And we've got the lead guy of the NHS calling people like us sick for talking about it, which I can understand that point of view as well. I can understand that point of view. I can understand someone in the BBC who has seen this stuff happening, right, and seen people suffering, and gone, what an absolute prick that David Icke is trying. And I felt the same way. Part of me still does. Still does. My issue is the banning of it. That's what's prompted me to have this conversation, because I was.
Well, they kind of done him. They couldn't have done him a bigger favour, really, could they?
They could. Well, the appeal. He literally put the appeal out, because remind me, there's something. Let's just say a certain mutual friend of ours saw something coming, and I will leave it at that. But let's just put it this way, right? The fact I was always brought up to believe that I did share it, because I had a lot. I thought, I'm gonna have a backlash off friends and family about this now, and I don't want to be the person who upsets people, right?
No.
And I thought to myself, I really had to think about this, because there's a lot of people that are close to me who are very, very afraid, but. And I am sitting here, and I am actually worried. I'm not worried about my mental health to a point of I'm starting to think, right, I have to start taking care of my mental health, right, during this time, right? And when I see something like that, I thought to myself, well, I can understand from a certain point of view why you would ban someone saying that, right? I can. From a certain point of view, I can understand it. However, right, the mainstream media all the time, because the first thing I was thinking of is someone basically said to you, because I was always brought up to believe that saying, which is, I might not agree with what you have to say, but I will defend to my last breath your right to say it. I believe in freedom of speech. I believe in freedom of expression, right?
So let's go back in time, right? And I watched this live, and it was 9/11.
Are we talking about Building 7 here?
Yeah, and I watched it live, and 27 minutes later, or whatever it was, that building collapsed. And I watched it live, and it was in the background. And the BBC said, we've just had a report that Tower 7 has collapsed.
Yeah.
And the reporter was like, and people have got out of their TV license, but no, that's a big light. No, that's a big light.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because they knew nearly 30 minutes before the event, right? Which is to this day, is the best psychic I've ever seen on telly, right?
Yeah.
And
I like that. Yeah, yeah.
and yet it happened, okay?
Yeah.
And some of the stuff that's been reported, the death counts, and some of the stuff that they've been talking about, as like they pulled it out of a magic hat, right? It genuinely is. It does feel like they pulled it out of a magic hat. And you've got, the more this is going on, the more they're saying, anybody stands up and says there's something not right with this, and the facts aren't being given, are being taken down.
Yeah.
Let alone whether it's a wild conspiracy or it sounds like madness or it's whatever it is. And yes, people are dying, right? And we know that cancer is a multi-billion-pound organization,
Yeah.
and that the cures are, as we know, one of our the gentleman, the follower, was watching our debate, said thank you because he brought
Well,
awareness to
yeah.
the thing.
Well, this is why I believe there is a virus, because I know people who have gone down with it, and I know people who are very, very ill with it, and that's where I fundamentally disagree with David Icke on that point, right? It's because I know people that are unwell with it, okay?
That are what? They've been diagnosed or they've just done well?
No, they've been diagnosed, my friend, as far as I'm
They've been
aware.
diagnosed with
Well,
COVID-19.
you were diagnosed with it.
I was diagnosed by a doctor without being tested, because I went down to the doctors
But
with a really bad chest.
you said that you've never experienced anything like that before yourself.
I have never had a cough. I have never had a cough. Normally I get warning signs. And I woke up on the morning and I had the worst phlegmy chest. It was kind of savage. I took steroids. 3 days later, I was back to normal, and it's been lingering for a month. It's been up and down for a month.
So
Now, 3 years ago, I had exactly the same thing, because I thought it was something to do with my heart. So I was getting tested a lot. I had iodine put into myself, and Christ knows what else. But I had a very similar thing. And I have come down with illnesses that are very similar, and I've just been taken down by them. And I've had the same period of time, and it's taken me months, and my throat's been croaky, and I have. It was very strange how it just came about, because normally, like I said, I get warning signs in my chest. But I have severe asthma. I'm a smoker. I have COPD. Right? Now, if I had this COVID-19, looking at the statistics of it, then I shouldn't be having this conversation. Looking at the statistics of it, is what the media is saying and what doctors are saying, what everybody is saying, then I shouldn't be here. That's the basis of what is being reported. I shouldn't have been just 5 days, or 4 days it was actually, because the steroids kicked in. I was right on the third night, and I was back on my feet, and my chest cleared up for the fourth day. So it kind of it's putting that statistic up and up and up and up and up and up and up.
well, okay. Here's another thing for you. What about Boris Johnson?
I can't imagine. Right, I don't know if what he's saying is true, if all the press come down with COVID-19 at the time, but he did a press conference every day. And, we are talking about this virus that spread like wildfire across the globe. And it kind of, we had Idris Elba was tested positive for COVID-19, and he said, I just got a sore throat. And then you had Tom Hanks and his wife were tested positive for COVID-19, and they just had sore throats. And then you had other people then in the media started saying over there, and then you had, this guy who had a tremendous heart condition, Eddie Large, and he died of COVID-19. And it just seems, which, you know, he did have a really severe underlying heart condition. Severe. And he was, you know, he'd had a few attacks now over the last couple of months. I can't, you know, it's like looking at, I've been looking at 5G, right? And I've been looking at the science behind it and everything else. Now, that grid that is going to be placed over the planet, right? Which is going to be from satellites, from towers, and from everything else. And they're putting them out there, which doesn't seem like an essential service, to be perfectly honest with you.
Yeah, right now.
And you look at the way the media manipulates things, right?
Well,
which people will just believe
why is the
what they
BBC
hear
taking
and what
such an
they see.
interest in this? You know, the BBC.
And if you add it all up,
yeah,
it just seems like there is something that is not quite right. And I'm getting that from people who are not, like, you know, in our world.
Yeah, I agree.
Where we look into things
I
and we know we go deep into things,
yeah.
and I've done lots of research.
I agree. Well, if I can...
It's painting a picture I can't seem to get past. And I'm struggling with all my might to get past. And you're saying, people saying this is safe, and this is safe, and this and that. And I believe that, you know, they make these biological weapons. Every country probably, you know, is making them at some point. And if you just look at that, right, you have countries who are making biological weapons, right? In these organizations, these groups are making biological weapons. You know, if you look at the nuclear bomb, and if you look at, there's so many things in this world you can really delve into,
Richard,
and
can
really
you hear
have
me?
a good look at, and they will paint a really strange picture. You know, you look at Tony Blair with the weapons of mass destruction nonsense. You know, and Trump have said they lied. Trump said Bush lied. You know, about the weapons of mass destruction, and they tore that country apart, and they've bombed hospitals, and they've killed children. And if you look at the people, if you look at someone who could just target children, and then think of what that person or them people are capable of. Like these aren't, you know, they're not targeting, you know, you have these so-called suicide bombers, and they just target people. And I know someone who was in the military, and that attack had happened in France, and he said, why were they wearing balaclavas if they were going to blow themselves up? And why were they carrying information if they were going to blow themselves to smithereens? He said, we were never trained for that. I never told that was the case. They just look like everyday, ordinary people. And there's so many little things, if you look at them, they just seem strange and odd, and they just don't make any sense in the world. And if you look at it all like that, and then look at this situation, it's not hard to go down that road. It's not hard to come to the conclusion that David Icke has come to. And, you know, this COVID-19 law they passed in Parliament, like, and just all these little things they passed, in terrorist laws they brought out in America, which still stand to this day, 20 years on. You know, and it's just like, you know, if you look at there's so many things you can look at. If you look at the Federal Reserve laws, and you look at our laws and the banking system, and these people who control these organizations, and Monsanto, and you just go on and on and on and on, and it just paints the picture of these people who run the world are very, very bad, and they care not for people, and they care for power, and they care for money. And what will power and money lead you to do?
Richard,
and that's how I can't escape it. I'm trying, like this 5G, I do not believe it is safe under any secret. I just don't believe it. As it stands, I don't believe it's safe. I don't believe it's safe for human beings. I really think it could be quite harrowing. And it is now a perfect excuse that if people display symptoms of radiation sickness or microwave sickness, or it does cause people to be ill, they have a really good excuse, which is COVID-19. It's made, if you look at it, it's either an unbelievable, astronomical coincidence, or it's not. And that's where I feel I am with it. So, you still here, Jazzy? Jazz?
Guys, I'm sorry about this. We've had a bit of an emergency happen as we're live, and I don't think Richard can hear me. Richard, can you hear me? Richard, can you hear me? Richard? Right, okay. If you guys can still hear us, we've had a little bit of a disruption to the stream, and I apologise for that. I'm going to try and get Richard back on the line now. Richard, can you hear me?
Yeah. How far did I get in there, bud, before we got cut off?
We're well, I think all the way, but did you hang up the call, or?
No, I just asked if you were there and you were gone. Did you hear, where did I get?
I'm not sure, dude. Basically, in the middle of that, I had to. I was trying to get your attention, but obviously you couldn't hear me, so I kept you going, basically. And in amongst that, someone's just let off 2 massive fireworks around us. So we've had issues with our dogs. They're both fine, but yeah. So basically, that was causing a lot of hassle because people have just let off massive fireworks outside. So I literally had to run off away from the desk for a second and go and tend to that. Otherwise, that'd have been a huge issue on my end. So you literally, I was about 2 seconds away from the desk, and when I come back, you had gone. You basically, the last I was saying was when you were mentioning about weapons of mass destruction, mentioning about everything, and all you said there was absolutely 100% true.
Well, I don't know if I caught it on the camera, but I basically said at the end, I said it's either like this COVID-19, right? If somebody gets sick from 5G, they're just going to blame the COVID-19. And it's either, right, all this is, it's either the biggest coincidence that has ever been, or it's not. That's what I kind of ended on, right? This is set the precedent. If you look at all of it, the world in general, and all these people, then it is, it's hard not to get where David Icke is. It's hard. I'm finding it hard myself to know that these people they will do their utmost, and it just becomes incredible now. So anybody because this COVID-19 is in the public awareness now, anybody that becomes sick from 5G, they're just going to blame COVID-19. And it's just, I can't, it's just very, very, very hard to look past it. I can't, I'm trying with all my might. And like, because I said about what that doctor said to me, I'm just piecing it all together. And I was always taught on this spiritual journey by my peers, by spirit, to look at it all. And if you look at David Icke's awakening, where he said this awakening that happened in him, he just felt this energy. I've been there. I know what that energy feels like.
Yeah, me too.
And my eyes were open. and my eyes were opened, and all these things, these pieces of this puzzle started to form in my mind, and I was just seeing this great big picture. And then other means were coming to me, and other little ideas, and other things were just falling in my lap. And it was like, because I become aware, everything became like different. The world was just changed in front of my eyes.
What a marvellous opportunity, though, now, in a sense, we have. Because at the end of the day, as you said, this is set a benchmark. And like you said, a couple of now debates ago, we don't have to agree on everything. We just have to agree that there's a lot, being said that here. I want to bring some people in on the chat here, because we have been having a lot going on in the chat.
I have the chat in front of me for the first time ever.
Oh my goodness! So we'll have to give us a round of applause.
I just saw somebody said I am dyslexic.
Yeah.
Snap.
So I know this gentleman has said he's got COPD and he is ill himself. I hope you get well soon. Anonymous information saying there's so many issues affecting us at the moment. Why is there so much emphasis being placed on 5G? Now, that is a good point, right? Because to see like a British broadcasting, I worked for the BBC, right? I know people who've worked for the BBC. I've got friends who have worked there, right? And when I worked there, you got told the public principles. And the biggest public principle was impartiality, right? Now, for the BBC to actually go on scathing attacks, which is what it's been doing in these articles. Again, I've shared them in the description below. For the BBC to actually go on scathing attacks here, it's going against its fundamental principles, of which the BBC's done very often. Let's not forget fracking. If we didn't have, if it wasn't for the likes of Ian Crane, for example, we probably would still be having fracking in this country.
Yeah.
And what the government did, overturning the Lancashire County Council decision, the fact that they were told about Preston New Road that it shouldn't be, it's not going to cause earthquakes, and then we need to raise the bar of what earthquakes we can cause. And all this sort of side of it was the fact they were ridiculed for protesting against it, and everything they said came to pass. They were trying to frack in Preston New Road, and it was causing all these seismic disturbances. The evidence is there. You just have to look at the oil fields of like Pennsylvania, the fracking fields of Pennsylvania, or Queensland in Australia to see the evidence. And that's a massive area of devastation, far bigger than that of the UK. You're seriously going to put. And it's like people said, I've had people say to me, oh yeah, well, if we got a different government. No, we haven't got a different government. People like Michael Gove was still in charge of he was in charge of was it Michael Gove was in charge of the health service for so long, and Boris Johnson was foreign. These politicians have been around for the last 10 years. They've been part of the same government that's created the austerity measures that we had back in 2010. These are not suddenly woken up and become... You've got Dominic Raab now, who's had to take the reads because of Boris Johnson falling ill, right? You've got him coming round and say, there's plenty of things, video evidence, when he say he doesn't believe in the Human Rights Act.
No.
So we understand, we know these people. I'm not saying these politicians are the ones responsible for this. I think that you can see this as a manipulated situation, but I can see this from a situation where we as a people, right, have had to really think about how our actions are affecting others. Okay. And what I'm finding very hard from a mental health aspect is I'm disabled. I'm registered visually impaired. So I interact with the world through touch. Most of my interaction is through either touch or hearing. So I'm buggered. I couldn't see the lines at a pharmacy today. And... the pharmacy worker was someone I've known for years. He's given me medical advice and all the rest of it for the last 5 years. I've had arguments with him, sure, when, medication hasn't been done properly or, there's been things happening or whatever. But on the 9 times out of 10, they've been a good pharmacy and they're genuinely terrified. Because I was coming too near to them, because obviously I couldn't see.
Yeah.
I come outside, I see my own mother.
But
hang on, let me finish, Matt.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I see my own mother outside the chemist, right? She's talking to someone else about 2 meters apart. There's another person about 2 meters apart. They're all waiting in line for the chemist. And I don't know where to stand to say hello to my own mother. Because either way, I'm breaking the social distancing.
But is that
What's
not
that doing psychologically? Yeah, of course it is. It's
it's been said on the channel there that was he banned for creating fear, but as this COVID not created
fear on an unprecedented scale.
Right? And it's not all it's on there. It's not all about 5G, and it's not all about it, but it's about the things that we'll accept because we feel like we have no control.
Yes.
And it comes down to like Mr. Leonard Crane stopped fracking, which has been proven to be unbelievable. Yeah. And it's the lengths we are willing to go because we feel like we have no control.
And essentially, what you need to do is get proactive about it, like Ian has said. The reason what brought down fracking wasn't Ian Crane, although he was very much the spark that lit the fuse, I would say, in this country. Not just Ian Crane, others as well. So not just him, but there were others as well that did it. You can't just credit one person. What created that fuse, and why I think this is a tremendous opportunity, and it's why I wanted to discuss, another reason why I want to discuss this interview, even though I don't agree with everything he says, right, is it has lit the fuse of people questioning. Being the most watched live stream on YouTube that day, that's unprecedented. That's something we could have only dreamt of years ago. Back when we were talking about this awakening back in 2015, 2016, when we first started this channel, my friend, that is unprecedented.
Yeah.
And I think it's an opportunity. But it's an opportunity here for us to, expose the crap that's been happening, but also an opportunity for us to embrace each other. For us to start thinking about
I know, but this is the worrying thing, because it's been brought up in the questions today. What if, right, it is proven, it comes to light that China released this virus, right, for economic espionage, or it was brought from America for the Chinese for economic espionage. We've seen what we are like as people, and the lengths we will go to, right? We've seen the prejudice that has come about because of terrorism, even though our forces have gone to other countries and caused utter carnage. After 9/11, I mean, I've seen reports, and there's reports on the internet, you can go and look at them. Soldiers, they said they run over women and children with their trucks and their tanks. They did that after 9/11 as revenge, right? That's fact. That's not a conspiracy. That's not make-believe. That is the truth. They did that. American soldiers admitted it, and they went on telly and said about it. So, what if that's the next step? What if that is the next agenda, right? Are we just, because I've seen quite a few people having hate for these people because they eat like turtles and snakes and bats on YouTube and whatever, on Facebook.
At the end of the day, dude, you've got people say, this is the question you've got to put to these people. This is where it's down to people like us, right? And I believe this is why people like us have gone through these experiences before. I don't before other people, right, have done it, right? And the thing is, yes, there's going to be a lot of anger. Yes, there's going to be a lot of vitriol, right?
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, right, what you got to think of is you've got people saying, "Oh, we need to go to war with China now,"
Yeah.
where they're eating a Chinese takeaway off a table was probably the components were made in China.
Yeah.
So this
But
is
this is
where
it.
it's down to each of us to have these conversations within our circles of influence, circles of our community. At the end of the day, this is where humanity is being given a choice. Humanity, at this present moment, is being given a choice. We are either going to choose a different road or we're going to doom ourselves. Because wherever it goes from now is going to be as equally unprecedented as the place we are in now. The response to this from humanity, from the human race as a whole, is either going to be one of self-preservation or self-annihilation. And I think that's what it's coming down to. And that's a terrifying thought, but that, at the end of the day, you know, what I am noticing, yes, you have got your idiots saying we need to go to war with China or some crap like that, but I am, as you said it yourself, my friend, there are equally more people asking questions, and unfortunately, if this is allowed to be pushed to the lengths it's supposed to, if it's a virus, if that virus gets to the point where, you know, it's Spanish flu levels, right? If this is a manipulation, right? And that either way, it's going to affect people's lives. It's going to affect their livelihoods. It's going to affect their loved ones. It's going to hit people where it hurts, my friend. And that's where each of us are going to have to ask these hard questions. And like I was saying earlier, you know, it's okay saying about not following the government guidelines. But at the end of the day, we've been lied to for so long, and people can see that. And I'm not saying every person can, but it might not need to take every person. It might, like you've said, it might just need to take enough.
Yeah, I think if we use the constitutions of our local councils and we bombard our local MPs and we do everything. But, I mean, there's so much. It is not just one thing. There's so much. I mean, it's the companies, the way they treat their employees, and it's just so much that this system shows, this have shown the faults in so much of our lives.
Well, you said it was shone a mirror up to the world.
Yeah,
and it shone a mirror up to each of us. And
yeah, it really has.
It's asked each of us hard questions of ourselves, and you guys can look back through every video on this channel. And we're a small, modest channel. We're not, we're not doing it for the millions of subscribers, or doing it we're doing it as much for us as we're doing it for anything else. You know, I think you can agree with that, Rich.
Yeah.
You have hesitation there, my friend.
Yeah, I just for me. I mean, it's just I've lived through this technological advancement, right? And I lived in a time where I just grew up, and yeah, sometimes we got up to mischief, sometimes we didn't. But I didn't have these technologies, and I had amazing childhood.
Yeah.
And it's just where, it's like when we're not, the leap in technology has been so fast. Nobody's really been prepared for it.
Yeah.
And, we're using this platform now to get this message across. We're trying to use this platform to speak this spiritual message. And it's quite a different thing to saying it, to doing it.
Yeah.
right? And it's taking everybody's feelings and thoughts into account, and it's very hard. I very rarely see it in my own world. I very rarely see it being. It's easy to speak about, but to put it into action is immense. Is a task in the world we live in. Being spiritual can be. You can have people think that you're weak, or you can have people think that you'll just be taken for a mug, or you can have people think that people will just walk all over you, and it's a very hard thing to define, and it is a shame that it's not being presented to more people.
What I'm saying with that, I want to put this message out. It's not. I want to put the message out there, dude. I'm not on about putting us out there. Do you know
Well,
that's my thing.
I mean,
It's the message.
but the message for us has a lot more meaning for us.
Yeah.
And it's going to take. I'm starting to see it with more and more people becoming aware of the environment. You're starting to see people sort of like put their ears up and say, "Hang about, there's something wrong here," right? And I'm always bumping my gums about it. I'm always trying to tell people about the spiritual awareness, and it is, it's trying. For the only reason is I'm trying to put magic and wonder into the world.
Yeah.
And say it's not all black and white. There is some really weird stuff going on. Like that video I did a couple of nights back with whatever it was out there just passing.
Yeah.
Sorry, there was a meteorite just literally as I'm speaking. I'm looking out the patio window, and a meteorite just literally tear-assed across the sky, very low.
That's happened a few times now.
Sorry, that's completely caught me off guard. That was a genuine meteorite just streaked across the sky, low orbit. I think that actually. Okay. So yeah, I mean, that was crazy. Sorry, I was just throwing me for a loop. It was white, and it was just literally just blazed across the sky towards this direction. There's so much that we have to change in the world, and it's everything. And I'm gonna keep saying it, but it's everything. It's how we treat each other, it's how we treat our children, it's how we treat our education, it's how we treat the system, it's how we treat money. It's all of it. It's not just, like the question posed, it's not just about 5G. Just 5G seems like another system of nonsense to me. And it just seems like nobody's tested it. They're just going to roll it out without giving it any thought. I mean, the advancements just in the last 15 years, from my point of view, have been incredible.
Yeah, absolutely.
And, they've caught the best of people off guard. With children, like they can't, they're in schools, and everything's being put on the internet for thousands to see. When I was a kid, if you did something a bit weird or a bit odd, you'd have probably about 10 people of your local friends going, "What was that about?" Like, you get over it, might get back to school the next day, and you go into school, and they say, "Did you do that?" And you'd say, "No," and I'll be there because nobody's none the wiser. It's just hearsay. But with the way social media is now, I mean, it's there forever, and I just think putting more of it in the world, I'm struggling to see the benefits. So, it's odd. Are you still here? Sorry, Jazz.
I am. Can you hear me?
Oh, just checking. Yeah, I'm just checking.
You're not going off on what you did the last time.
No, I don't want to get cut off again.
As things have gone down with this now debate, it's come across quite unprofessional. But I am sorry about that, guys. But we're not trying to produce a studio show here. We're just trying to have a chat with you all, and that's the way we do it. That's the way we're trying to. I'm hoping to get a webcam in the next couple of weeks, Mr. Richard, so we can actually start seeing our faces again.
Well, I've got my tablet working now, and I've got a little camera on that, and I hopefully I'll be able to do the same. but it's, you know, I got to be honest. I'm struggling with it at the moment. I'm struggling. It feels like I'm saying something that should be genuine common sense,
Yeah.
but that's from my, but that within my world, it does seem
Yes.
like common sense.
Yeah.
And if we don't stand up to these things, oh yeah, sorry, somebody just messaged me today then, about the river being really clear and clean down in the local taff, and we drove past it twice, and it is like a turquoisey, clear, beautiful blue, and it's very odd. I was sort of like, it never looked like that. It's normally like a dirty, sludgy brown, and I think it's been since this lockdown. The difference it's made,
Yeah.
and you know, I mean, signs, regardless of obviously our minds are focused on COVID-19 and not catching it, and the people we love not catching it, and everything else. But it just seemed like there's a bigger picture,
Yes.
and I think the more, and David Icke, all right, he said something that people are going to find controversial, but what the media are bombarding us with
Exactly.
is way more damaging. And you've got people that are going out in parks, right? You've got these people in cities and God knows what, going to what about the people that live there? It's all right for us, we can go wandering up the valleys, up the mountains, which happened, and everybody turned up a pen of van. You only have to have 1,000 people have the same idea, which is not hard in a community of millions, and before you know it, you've got a crowd. And these people turning up in parks, they live in cities, that's all they've got is parks.
Yeah.
And it's being used to say, look at these people not abiding by the rules. And it's giving all that type of shit. And it's like common sense would tell you that where else have they got to go if they want to go out and walk the dog or get fresh air or just want to sit in the sun? If you have 1,000 people in a football field, social distancing is going to be difficult. If you have 4,000 people in 4 football fields, the same maths work. And it just seems like the media is using this. It's like a frenzy.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's like, it's like people, it's like these people have been panic buying when there's been a panic. And it's like, yeah, they haven't thought of the old person, but they've been thinking, oh my God, I need to feed my family.
Yeah.
And that's being used against people. And it's all reaffirming negativity.
Yes.
And it's just like a perpetual hatred thing. It's like Boris Johnson. I don't think for a second Boris Johnson has had a hand in this COVID-19, or he's at the top of this ladder. And I feel sorry for him that he is in hospital and his pregnant wife has got COVID-19, right?
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
I don't like his policies. I don't like the Tory party. I don't like their policies. But that doesn't mean I wish that on a guy, or I want the nation to go. Doesn't mean that I'm going to celebrate his
No.
political term
God, no.
because I don't like his political term. I've got
Yeah.
nothing against the human being, Boris Johnson. I don't want to see him hurt or ill or frightened or dying or his family. And this is where the mentality of us as people is starting to get a bit ropey.
Yeah.
And it's like, like I said, I'm just struggling with it a bit at the minute. It's a big message that we've been given, on this channel to pass on to people, and the amount of groups out there, and there's quite a few, and I think worse in the paranormal community. I think it's actually worse. And there's a few groups out there that have been saying, I don't want to tell them, I don't want people coming on and using my glory, and it's like, I've looked out the window. Do you know what's going on?
Yeah.
And we could. There's so many of us. We could all be preaching this message and actually making a change. and sharing this information and telling people what's wrong with the world and what we can make right. So, I mean, that's just from my point of view, but it just seems to be getting all lost in translation at the moment, and the fear the media is pumping out it's wicked. It's wicked.
Well, if you guys know of any places that we could use to put this story out there and share our views, we're not necessarily looking to promote the channel. We just want to share the stories of the things that we've encountered and what we've learned from them. Then please let us know in the comments section below. Richard, we're coming very near to the end of time now because it's getting on for 20 past 9 and we've been on here for a good hour and 20 minutes.
No problemo.
Is there any final thoughts that you would like to give?
No, I just, if you are in self-isolation, just stay safe. Think of all the things that, you'll be surprised at what will come out your head when you really think about it. And if you've got time on your hands, do some research yourself, guys. Don't take anyone's word for it. Find the facts, add up the dots, find the pieces
and
that fit the puzzle.
Yeah, see where they fit for you.
Yeah.
I personally, and I followed David Icke for years, right? And in a lot of stuff, the pieces add up. In this, I agree with the research, a lot of the research, not necessarily with the findings, not all of it. But we'll have to see. We'll have to see whether or not, this is the change. What we are being told by Spirit is this is the change that's going to happen and change the world for the better. Perhaps we're in the midst of it. Perhaps, this is, it's quite funny how sometimes strange or bad things happen for good reason. And, I would just say that the biggest message that, and the message I want to say that gets overlooked in all this, right, in the he said, she said bullshit, is love. What is going to make you act is love. And that is it. And we are gonna need, in a sense, to show a different kind of love to get through this, because we're gonna have to realize that our actions have consequences on others around us that we may not have a personal affiliation with, but essentially the consequences of us not being observant, not, showing that love, respect and tolerance and care and empathy could be dire. I think, whether you are sort of believing in what David Icke is saying, then the consequences are dire. If you believe in what's being said on the mainstream media, the consequences are dire. Whichever way you look at it, the answer, and I said this on the last video we put out where we had the message from Spirit. If this virus does not discriminate, what is affecting the world at the moment does not discriminate. It does not discriminate against the doctors and nurses on the front line, which Spirit have told us are going to need our love and support more than ever. Because what those guys are going to go through when this is all said and done is going to be akin to a war, like, the PTSD the soldiers have after a war, right? What families are going through, where, we've got young and old, people with underlying health conditions, the psychological fear, the problems of the mental health, the fact that, like, if you catch this virus, you not allowed anyone with you, you could die alone and not actually have a chance to say goodbye. Either way, what is being perpetrated here is affecting everyone equally. So the response from humanity has to be equal in the sense of what Spirit have told me they call principle love. And that is, like, I am not a big religious person. I'm not a big believer in sort of the Bible and things, though I'm intrigued by it. It comes down for what we got told when we went to Speaker's Corner. And whatever, my thoughts on 5G, and I've been meaning to bring this up. We were in a block of flats that were about 3 rooms per flat. Everyone in a cluster of about 40 to 50 flats. Everyone had a Wi-Fi router. There was a Wi-Fi router like every 100 meters. And me and Richard both felt sick staying there. It had a very negative effect. And we've got footage of the K2 meter, and the electromagnetic energy in that place was off the chart. And when we went to Speaker's Corner, we got shown that poem where the guy basically said about the Council of 12, just completely utterly by coincidence.
Well, this is what I said.
Let me finish. Sorry, I hadn't finished.
I know, but you said it was coming to the end.
I just want to say this. The point was love thyself, love thy universe, and love thy neighbour. And I think that is got to be at the core of any response humanity has to this. Sorry, that was my last word. Go on, Rich.
No, I'm just saying, if if anybody can pass this information on, if they got a big circle that they're part of, get out there and test these 5G towers. They're everywhere. Get out there and test them. Do the EMF testers. Do get anything that tests microwave radiation. Any these tests are quite, they're quite simple to get hold of. And do your own research. Don't just take the science for it. Go out there and test them. See what type of thing this is pumping out. And see the increase as the towers go up. And then ask yourself, is that acceptable? And yeah, find out for yourself. If you want to know the truth, you've got to find out for yourself, guys. You've got to go there. So,
love and light to you all, guys. We'll see you next week for another Now Debate. Take care.
Love and light. Bye, guys.
Are you